What was it like for you growing up uh, in your household, your parents voting Democrat your entire life, and then when did that switch happen, and uh, did that cause any rifts in your family? I mean, you asked us that. Did,
Really, it didn't, because by the time I started voting Republican, so did my mom, and I don't know about my dad. Honest, by that point, they were divorced and living in different areas, and we didn't really talk politics. They just said, "Oh yeah, well, government employees vote for Democrats and farmers vote for Republicans," or something. I guess that's what they told me growing up, um, and it was just as I grew older and started actually reading like platforms and where they stood on different issues, I thought, boy, I can't. And so when it came for me to register, I never have been a Democrat. Um, and somewhere in there, my mom switched, and I would put money on the fact my dad probably did too, just from what little adult conversations we had. Um, but yeah, it wasn't. We just didn't talk politics. It just wasn't part of our. We just talked about the weather. I mean, honestly, it was pretty. I came from a family. Maybe that's why they got divorced. I don't know. We didn't talk about anything. But um, yeah. So they just you do you and we'll do us, and so yeah, no big pressure there.
So when we talked before, that mentioned you were Trump, a lot of his policies. You already told us his abortion view, a big part of it, but
Right.
um, what other parts do you think align well with you?
Okay. Yeah. Immigration. I'm totally for immigration, but just done legally. And if we don't
Okay.
like the laws, let's just change them. Because that forces them to come in lawless already. They're already breaking the law. It's like, well, let's make it so they, whatever that looks like. That's above my pay grade. But to say break the law, come in, hey, I can't, I'm not comfortable with that. So I think any community should have some type of boundaries and borders. I go to Africa, and I can't just stay. I mean, they'll watch it. They're watching me. Um, so that's a big one. The abortion, just the whole judge, federal and just court system. I just want people that are constitutionalists, and I'm just going by things I hear. Like I don't like study what's really going on, but it sounds like he's putting a lot of judges in place that aren't trying to legislate law through the courts, but rather just judge. Those are probably the big things. I'm not smart enough to know economy stuff. I mean,
I don't think
I
the
get money
president
and I
has a
spend
lot
it.
to do with.
Yeah. I mean, everybody takes credit or not,
Yeah.
and
but when the gas prices are low, thank
Yeah.
the president.
Yeah.
I mean, you do see it. I think with Trump, one of the economic things you see where he has had an impact is tariffs. Tariffs have, they're a tool of basically an economic war, and they rarely do pull in the cheap. But I guess to question you mentioned immigration. Maybe a question for both of the conservative guys in the room. Alberto, it sounds like did you say the church that you guys are part of? It's okay. Well, that makes a better question there in terms of immigration. A lot of people criticize Trump, saying he's anti-immigrant, or he's a racist. I don't know that I would go that far. I think a lot of times we tend to amplify the characteristics of people we don't agree with and make other people out to be. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I don't know. But certainly you can look at, data-driven type decisions like, our refugee quota is something like 200,000 people. That's annually, and we've filled like 40,000 or something like that. And there's obviously a lot of rhetoric around, building a wall, and whether it's where a situation where he actually has something against people from other countries, or it's just more of that nationalist populist. We need to protect what's here. I guess what do you see in terms of immigration? What should be the policy? Should we allow more people in? Should we have a relatively open border policy where we say, okay, we're still going to check your passport, maybe do a quick background check, but as long as you're not, as long as you shouldn't be in jail for something, then we're going to let you come and work here, live here, participate in our society. Not necessarily citizenship, but have more of an open policy where people can come and go, people can interact with us. I'm just kind of curious from your two perspectives, so just from side and especially being around, probably a lot of opinions that I would guess.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, in my church, we do have a lot of people who have gone through the process and coming over either legally or some people illegally, and then a lot of times people getting caught and sent back. That happens a lot in our church and other Latino churches around. Like, that happens a lot. But I think also knowing like what's happening on the other side of the border affects like why I go that route. Just because like I agree with stronger or more secure borders. I wouldn't go as far as building a whole wall across the border, but having more secure, just because being on the other side, seeing like the cartels, seeing the violence and the drugs, and just feeling like if we just let anyone come through the borders, then that's going to start seeping. Even it's already going through the borders, even how it is, but even opening it up more would just bring that to the U.S., to our side. And so just, I don't know, that's why I feel I'm more on that side, where more secure borders, just because I've seen the other side, I've heard the stories of the other side and what's going on over there, and I don't know, it's scary to think of it spreading over here too, and which it's already started at.
Mm-hmm.
What about like this has happened under both Trump and I believe it happened under Obama as well, of separating kids from their parents and putting them in separate those things like that. That's just one of those things where I used to be fairly just down, right down the line, conservative, toe the line on things, and that's one of those issues that for me kind of I really can't get behind. That's one of those things that really puts me in that libertarian camp. And even within libertarianism, there's a vast debate over, should it be all private borders? Should it be, a limited government? Conservative might say open borders with very minimal requirements. Like I said, basically you're not on some list with a warrant out in your country or jail. But when I see things like that of splitting up families, I can't find anything in just in my heart as a Christian that says that's okay. And so to me, when I think about some of the immigration policies that Trump administration, again, I think a little bit that happened in the Obama administration, I can't get behind that, regardless of what letter is after here or not. I don't know if that comes into play for you guys at all, or
I think with
that?
me, I look at it as breaking, if you broke any law. If I go and rob a bank and get arrested, I'm going to be separated from my family because I broke the law. And I don't know how to do it better, because since they're breaking the law as a family, I don't even know the logistics of how do you come up with all the different. I haven't been down there to see what's really happening. It'd be nice to keep families together, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. But I look back to if you weren't breaking the law, you wouldn't be in that situation. So you can't really complain because you broke the law. So don't break the law. Your family can stay together 10 feet on the other side of the border, and nothing ever happened to you.
So can we not solve that by allowing our immigration policies to
Maybe so. I mean, maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
fix the citizenship path, fix some of the visas that get abused for purposes they're not for, opening them up to more legitimate use, take away, I guess, or at least lower limits on countries. We have certain countries places like that where the list become citizens is decades. There's can't possibly really legally become a citizen.
And even
as
if
a
you took
normal
citizenship
person.
off the table, like I was saying, you could still allow freer movement. You could come here and work. You could come here and a lot of the objections you often hear from the right is, well, our welfare state can't import an influx. And I would agree with that. I mean, I want to eliminate the welfare state. I want that to be a private organization. But just to counter that point, those citizenship and drawing benefits from the government and openness to be able to come and work, looser visa requirements, you know, if you're within a system like we have today, totally a thing that you don't have to move one needle to move the other. You could make harder citizen requirements and make great strides in come and work, come and visit relatives, things like that. You know, and to Dan's point, you know, I hear what you're saying a little bit, but at the same time too, I think, okay, well, so what about cases where you live in a country where, say, being a Christian's illegal, having a Bible's illegal? That's something that's very, very real in our world today still. There are still countries where you can't own a Bible. I guess I would flip that around and I would say on a moral perspective, you know, would you say, well, I'm okay with them imprisoning this person for having a Bible because, well, it was illegal, even though as a Christian we would think that, yeah, you should be able to have your Bible, you should be able to grow in God's word, or even would you put yourself in a position where you would be unwilling to own a Bible or give someone a Bible because the state said it was?
Well, that's probably why in those countries there's such an underground, you know, with underground church in China. You know, it's you do your best to hide it, but what do? I mean, if you're caught with it, you're caught with it. You know, it's kind of apples and oranges, I guess, as far as America, because we don't have that as a law yet, anyway. But yeah, I don't know how to answer.
I guess I was just kind of thinking about the parallel of, you know, splitting up families and, okay, because it's something that state says not legal, right? But would we still support that as a Christian because the law says that's what the punishment should be, versus saying, well, I'm not really okay with what they're doing. I may agree that there was a law broken. I guess that's the perspective I come at, questioning whether something's moral before I question legal, or what are the effects of this law versus the intents of this law. Talked about some of that with drug legalization, right? You know, I don't want everybody to be drugs. I don't want people dependent on chemical substances. I want people ultimately to draw their strength from Christ, right? So I'm not pro drugs. I'm just against some of the things that are done in the name of enforcing some of those. I guess that's kind of my perspective on that. I feel like there are some intents maybe to protect us from things that are outside our borders, but there's a lot of negative consequences that come out of that, and that's directly because of the things that it does. Same thing with war. I mean, to me, that's probably one of the biggest issues. And as much as I hate abortion, you look at how many lives that are taken with the wars that are being fought as well, you know, and we're told one thing, and I've been to Iraq, I've been to Afghanistan. That's why I really started questioning a lot of my political beliefs. Started path on becoming, and it's a question like, why are we really here? Why are we blowing up a wedding party where there might be this one guy and killing asset? And so it's, for me, I think, not just your intent, but your actual.
So, in the libertarian view, you want the open borders. You also don't want to really provide resources to people in need, right? So how does that? What do you do as the need arises? Need rises. Okay, maybe that's the
It's,
part.
well, it's very spread out. It's
Yeah,
very
oh yeah.
Yeah,
everything from won't get into all the libertarian infighting that occurs, because it's probably just as diverse as, you know, a Republican, but one of the major positions is either open borders. There's kind of a few major camps. It's either open, meaning more access, you know, with maybe limited visa checks, kind of like I was talking earlier. There's like totally open, like go between Iowa and Nebraska, no check, whatever. And then there's kind of another camp that ultimately I would probably be more, that would be private property owners, right? You own that property at that border, determine who can come on your property or not, right? But same thing with the need arising. I would say that comes back on a few things. You can deregulate things so people can have the ability to make money in ways that government often gets in the way of right now. You can also, again, it would take private organizations, businesses, to step up and provide for those needs.
And as part of the idea, maybe if you already know you're not going to get assistance, that's kind of the old way. Maybe you came in, you're going to work your way up. You're not going to be gifted your way up. Is that maybe part of the thought that the need won't be there forever? At some point, you're going to be hungry. You've got to get a job.
Yeah, possibly.
Or am I just putting
there's
that on
going to
there?
always be people that can't work. I think it's just, again, I'm not saying don't take care of people's needs. I'm just saying I don't think state and using what it really amounts to coercion. When you boil down taxes, it comes down to a group of people coercing everyone else to give to us. Not voluntary giving. It's not. Let's not confuse tithing with, you know, taxes aren't tithes to the state.
Thing that all libertarians agree on. Taxation is theft.
Because really nowhere else in society could we go out and I could say, hey, we're all going out for dinner, and Dan, we all decided, we voted, and you're going to pay for our meal. You know,
We're
it just
all
doesn't
getting prime
work
rib.
that way, you know? And somehow we scale that up from the 5 of us going out to dinner and saying, you're going to pay for our meal, and forcing you to do that. No one would say you're obligated to do that, but somehow we scale it up, and through the magic of government say, well, now I'm going to somehow vote for this guy that now has the authority to coerce the rest of us.
Right,
That's all we're doing. It's just,
Yeah.
just removing that aspect. Definitely not opposed to providing for people.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to go to you.
Well, I was just gonna change the subject
Yeah.
completely, and I know where you guys are gonna fall on this real hard. But a big part of the debate right now, between both in the Democrat primary itself and between healthcare, and to me, I support universal healthcare because a big part of my life is in. Every time I go over there, I see the way that the government takes those babies and treats them for $12, and my grandparents are able to get the care they need, and all the kids at the orphanage, and it works. And how do you get there? I don't know. I do not have the. But I see a system that works, and I think, why can't we have? And part of the reason that I support someone like Pete over someone like Bernie is on this issue. I don't think that the government is, or the country, period, is ready to step from where we're at to a full single payer system, and more similar. Same way that Obamacare certainly flaws.
Now, like, I remember, like, with the Obamacare and everybody talking about the healthcare and stuff, like, everybody has always had healthcare. I mean, there's never been, you go to a hospital, you'll get treated. It's that simple.
Right.
But I don't know how, I mean, I know things changed, but I don't know how they changed. I don't get that detail.
A big part of benefit of universal health care is, say Alberto gets cancer, his insurance is not going to cover all of it. It's going to be fine. Even if he's, got nothing. And that is the, even just like a lot of times, sure, maybe you'll get treated, but sickness, I was sick, go to the doctor, and I really should have, because it would have gotten me better sooner. But it's just that type of thing
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it can help. And this this is coming from someone who has great health insurance, but I've just seen the way it's helped people in Taiwan so often that would have been in such terrible situations.
Yeah, you're in a unique situation because these are orphans, many of them.
Yeah.
And your family's been there. Well, your grandparents have run that orphanage. I was there in '94 and met your grandfather and grandmother. So yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Yeah, that how do you go from here to there if that's really without government corruption?
Right. And that's the issue right now. Spot and paper.
Yeah.
I lived in Eastern Congo for about 2 years. We were missionaries there. Been back about 5 years now. And in that region, there were 2 or 3 different hospitals, pretty limited. But one of the best ones over there was actually run by the church. It was supported by the local churches. It was also supported by some foreign organizations like Samaritan's Purse. So, you know, we probably can't just pick 2 anecdotes, right? And just say, well, this works here and the other thing doesn't, because obviously we can go back and forth. We pick all the anecdotes all over the place, right? There's going to be some cases where either side support. Again, I think you can go back to some of the things like I was mentioning earlier. You look at some of the regulations that actually ended up causing healthcare in the country to change over the last century and a half, where a lot of those things were provided by the church. A lot of them were provided by free. A lot of them were, a lot of the insurance plans were grown out of like groups of people, like clubs, fraternal organizations. So some of the mess we're in is a direct result of the things the government has done. You used to be able to have things like apprenticeships for doctors, right, where somebody didn't have to go to medical school, and a lot of people freak out at it. But that's the way things used to work, right? Like you could have essentially an extended residency where someone could learn those skills, right? Look at a lot of the other rules and regulations around like midwifery or something, for example. Nurse midwives that deliver babies. Some states, you got to have a full certified nursing degree to do that. There's just a lot of things where I feel like we've regulated solutions out of the economy. We have regulated certain ways of funding those things out of the economy. And you do have some alternatives that are out there. You have a lot of places are starting to develop these things that are like healthcare. I don't really want to say a club, but something where you can belong to this organization. You pay like a flat fee for the year, and everything's covered. And like your prescriptions, 10th or 20% or something of what they would be at a pharmacy. So there are solutions out there. A lot of times there are barriers to bringing those to market because there are a lot of risks. I guess my opinion on that is part of that problem that we see right now is caused by the government, and we're asking the government to step in and try and solve it by taking more of it over. And I've got plenty of buddies that have been through the VA health system. Tell you all kinds of stories. I'm like, you want to look at socialized medicine in the U.S.? There's a great, I'll use that in quotes, example.
My mom retired from the VA hospital.
Yeah. And there are some people that get great care, but there's also a lot of stories where it's just, if this was a hospital, if this was run like a business, there's no way these people could do this and provide this level of care because they'd go out of business. No one would go there. And that's my worry, is that we would that kind of happen, rely on the government.
I guess that's certainly possible. I've just seen it work. And so to me, I see it, okay, that is an option. possible. I'm not saying I have an answer for it there that it would even hear. I just look at it as like an idealistic.
Yeah, yeah. In Taiwan, are they have the corruption? I mean, I suppose every government has some, but I mean,
I
I'm
don't
not
think
familiar
it's
enough.
nearly as
They really like
clear.
care for their people.
And just to be clear, when I talk about one, people,
Oh,
it's
right.
very much first.
Yeah. So, you're Mayor Pete. All right. So you're. What is it you like about him? I mean, you mentioned some things already.
So the thing that initially
You're at a caucus.
attracted me, one of my, if not my, because there's certainly things he does.
He's got great hair.
Yeah, that's it. Hand's perfect. But the biggest thing is he's so divisive in his rhetoric, and so he just treats other people terribly. I don't like that from our leader. Kind of a departure from every leader that I've been.
Yeah.
Can't speak
In
before
my
that.
lifetime as well, which
Yeah. And Pete's rhetoric is constantly about unity and coming together, and I saw a video recently of a voter finding out right before the caucus that he's married to another man, saying well, I don't want to vote for him. Him responding, well, that's unfortunate, but I'm still going to try and be your president, regardless of whether you disagree with me or what. Not the end. That's what initially. As a some of the other. There's.
sure, yeah.
I think our country needs. It goes back to what I was talking about, ranked choice. We're just so polarized in the two parties that everything the Republicans do is wrong, or everything the Democrats do is, regardless of what it is. And
Yeah, you choose a team,
yeah,
and you have to automatically hate everything the other team does.
and it's probably idealistic, but I'm looking for is at least attempting to lessen that.
So, okay, you're an Iowa State grad. I'm a Hawkeye fan.
Yeah.
We're looking for a UNI person. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're speaking my language. Okay, I got it.
Nobody understands that more than libertarians, I think, because in a room of conservatives, we're the liberal, and in the room of liberals, we're the conservative, and
Yeah.
it's
That's
kind of
true.
like, well, if you don't like my guy, then you must love this guy, and not the do something like this. Actually, talk about what I believe. Pigeonholing.
But wouldn't it?
Libertarian is not necessarily the best of or the best of conservatives and the best of liberals. It comes at the whole thing from a different. Comes down to that fundamental, really what we call the non-aggression principle. Don't initiate. That means, so it's, again, as a coercion, as to do what you need to do to threaten somebody. Basically, if you don't comply, we're gonna garnish your wages. We're gonna arrest you. We're gonna jail. Offensive, response might be fine, but like you don't go steal something from, go punch someone in the face because you don't like it. You don't go hire the government to steal from your neighbor to take care of something that you want done. You don't hire the government to go whatever it might be.
You can't force somebody to give you a certain product that they
Okay.
produce. So I think a lot of that, when you talk about healthcare, I think talk to libertarians, part of that comes policies that are going to have to be made for doctors. And so I think starting healthcare, I think a lot of solutions come by just taking regulations that and the partnerships between corporations and government, cutting that red tape, like, sort of freeing up the market a little bit. Simple example of like being able to buy insurance across state lines. You can't buy, like, you can do health, like car insurance. virtually overnight, that sort of takes care of, that adds more competition and for your system, and it's better for everybody. Prices drop almost overnight. But a lot of regulations stop even generic versions of drugs from being available. They didn't talk to the right lobbyists.
Right.
Even something like cannabis oil is seemingly being very helping a lot of issues with cancer and pain and things like that, and it's down on quite a bit by pretty much every.
So yeah, said that.
So like in the case of absolutely required drugs, the free market is going to it already is, jack the price way up. And if you don't have any kind of regulatory body, I guess, regardless of how it is right now, argument.
Some of that I would argue though comes into play because of things like drug patent law. Allows and on the one hand I do understand, like, okay, that company you'd be able to pay your but again, time to get a drug to market, a double digit the number of years, all the okay, so again, things like that, being able to get things to market faster because you don't have to rely on government letting people want to try those drugs and letting someone else use that formula out. Intellectual properties are really lots of different, but some of the reasons products such a monopoly form government protections to begin with. On the one hand, you can say, well, we'll mandate, government can step in and mandate that they sell this for the amount, or that the government will purchase whatever agreement to distribute it. At the same time, they are creating part of that problem by providing the cost to actually bring it to market in the
Fair. I worked in a.
I'm sorry.
was-
wait, we're not supposed to.
So it's your fault.
No, wait, no judgment. I'm
a
sorry.
little frustrating. Yeah.
So you brought up the cannabis thing, Nate, and I'm like, I'm as conservative as you can get, right? I mean, I'm anti everything, right? It seems like, but I don't get that one. Why is everybody against it? Because if it's truly helpful, I mean, not like giving them joints, right? I mean, they're saying, I mean, when I take pain medicine, I go to the dentist, it's based on heroin, right? I mean, it's like, so isn't this a softer drug?
Adderall is virtually crack.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was taking guitar lessons years ago and had a tooth thing, and went in afterwards for my guitar, and the guy goes, "You're on heroin?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "What do you?" And I told him my head. He goes, "Yeah, that's heroin. Believe me, I know." He said, "Get off it quick, or you'll be like me." And I'm like, okay. So why are we so afraid of cannabis? I really don't know. What is the argument? Because it's definitely, it's a strong opposition in Iowa. I don't know. Speaking ignorance.
And the war on drugs got in strongly, and I think it's relics of.
That's what I'm
Rather than
wondering.
Nancy
any-
Reagan, red ribbon, just say no, all that stuff,
Nancy,
and it's
Will.
derived from the same plant.
Yeah.
Take the non-addictive oil out.
Right.
It's at least anecdotally in some studies, one of those things hard to find balanced, really, because opinions on it. But at least anecdotally, you can talk to a lot of people that say it's really helping with things like epilepsy. And it's like,
Yeah, that's what I hear.
why not? But even aside from that, my view would be, do I have a right over your body? If you want to, I may not agree with what you want to put in your body, but do I have any right to say to you, you can't try this treatment? You can't, even recreationally, be that maybe use whatever drug, but I don't know that I have any right over your body.
a lot of libertarians lobby for something like how alcohol is treated, where if you're of a certain age, if you're 18, if you're an adult, consenting adult, then you should be able to try whatever you want to put in your body, as long as you're not driving, affecting other people, as long as you're, so
As long as
there's-
I don't have to pay the bill
as long as we don't have to pay the bill, yeah,
for
like,
whatever you
do
do.
what you want to do. But and I think a lot of people come at it are anti.
It comes back to can we use, is it valid for us, and this is a question I guess to step back just as Christians, not just as Americans, but like, is it valid for us to use state coerce people to act or to try and make a law that's structured around Christian?
Right.
Again, there's certain things obviously, like if you're assaulting or murdering or doing something against someone else, that makes, but again, we can make people look, we can try to codify Christianity law. It's not going to make, that's where I think some of that comes. We don't have to give up our Christianity to look for. I'm right with you. It's just, it comes out of the drug war.
Do I, as a Christian, believe that they should be doing that with their body? Probably not. Bible tells us to always have a sound mind, be of ourselves. So, no, I don't think personally that they should be doing that. But if we live in a free society and talk about being able to make decisions like their own body, kind of have to.
Really, it's been several decades now since we've outlawed things even like marijuana, but that clearly hasn't made everyone stop. So I guess that's kind of my approach. You can reduce that use by basically scaring people to have a reason. But to me, it's like the guy that's sitting on his porch, again, I don't agree with him, but stoned out of his mind, sitting there on his porch doing nothing. But that's evidently what you do when you're stoned out of your mind.
And the snacks.
Yeah.
Got the snacks.
I'll come by with a snack truck.
Eating Cheetos. Or, half a dozen cops coming up and throwing him down to the ground, putting a knee in his back, cuffing him, throwing him in the back of the squad car. I mean, to me, it's like,
and we pay for him to be in jail.
who is actually committing, like, who's actually committing a wrong there? That guy might be addicted. He might be, he needs help if he'll accept it. But I don't know. Some of these things we do to try and enforce the morals, just, I don't know that we're actually.
So
I'm sorry.
That you-
Keep cutting
go ahead.
me
No,
off
that's okay.
Over and over. I outlined a sermon recently about how I think a lot of times as Christians we try so hard to force our morality on other people that actually, instead of having the intended effect, closer to God or whatever, it's the opposite effect. It kills our witness, forcing them to do something that they don't want to do because they don't believe that's what they should do. And by saying you have to do this thing that you don't agree with, or you can't do this thing that you think is fine, no one likes to be told to do. Full taxes are. No one likes to be told to do something that they don't believe in. So it just pushes you away from it.
yeah.
Don't change someone point that their heart is.
That's where we get in trouble because most Christians I know are pretty passionate about politics, but it's like I wish we were more passionate about Jesus because that's the answer, and like we flip it upside down. Maybe it's because I do have a vote, I can vote, but I can't make so-and-so become a Jesus person, but at least I can make a vote and make them look like it, I don't know where it boils down to, but I think we're in an interesting time. I wish I could read the future, but you look in the conservative side, you got the Republican Party, and a growing number of people seem to be going toward the libertarian world. And then you look on the Democrat side, there's a whole lot in the kind of the center-ish, and now they have a growing like socialist wing. You wonder, are we headed to 4 parties at some point? What happens even this time around if Bernie gets cut off?
Well,
yeah,
we can't be because of the first past the post voting mechanism. It does not make sense allowed the growth of extra parties because
Was protective for sure.
because say
Both the major parties have an interest. Two
right,
parties.
right,
Yeah.
and say the libertarian or make up a party. The Red Party is too close to the Republicans, but they're separate parties, and now they're splitting their votes. Well, the Democrats just won.
Yeah.
And so, because of first past the post voting, we will never not have it.
But we've seen that, like with Ross Perot. That's why Bush lost, really, back in the day. I just wonder, like in this election series.
Well, that's why Hillary lost too
Yeah, yeah,
from last year.
yeah.
A lot of people said that. Well, my parents especially told me that if I voted for Gary Johnson, then Hillary would win because that's what happened with.
So statistically, none of our votes make, because number one, we're voting for electors,
Sure.
and they're going into a big pot. None of us have ever changed. Honest, really, when it unless your district was the deciding vote by one guy won.
That's true,
You
but
know.
if we all say that, then suddenly,
Then it causes problems. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and then you run into half the population never even voted. Like,
And I think very few actually people that could vote.
I think it's important to, like, kind of talked about earlier, is looking at it through the lens. We have all these different political views. We look at it through the lens of Christ. Christ never advocated for like a top-down approach. He always advocated for grassroots.
Right.
You know, what are you gonna do? You go home and love your neighbor. You take care of the poor. If we're not doing that, I can't be mad about homelessness if I'm not doing anything to help.
Yeah, we can't say, well, the government's taking care of it, so I don't
Yeah.
have to. Guess what? They get a double bonus then because the government will help them, and I still need to. I mean, if
Regardless of anything,
yeah,
Jesus calls me to help them.
right. All right, we've been talking forever. I could keep, it's been very enjoyable, actually.
Two-part episode.
I think before we close,
Yeah, yeah.
I think one last takeaway that really is clear from all this is just in case you're real frustrated with whatever the other party or other person is right now, remember that all of us are Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Have what seem like reasonable reasons for supporting what we do. Remember that just because they disagree, suddenly not a Jesus person.
Yeah, I don't know any Jesus people who vote for someone thinking, this will glorify Satan. I mean, you know, it's true. I feel like we haven't really hit the Democrat side well enough, though. And I don't know where to go, how to do this, because like you're really the only one who would be probably involved in the caucuses here in Iowa. I'm sorry your vote really didn't count yet. Pretty soon.
Hey, Pete
I
got
caucused on Saturday.
Pete got his
Yeah.
bump.
What's that?
Pete got his bump.
He got his bump. Yep. So let's run through them. Like, what do you think of Warren?
So I went and saw Warren and all of it. I went and saw Warren, and I like the biggest thing for me with Warren is her desire, and Bernie really, their desire to clean politics, money out of it, clean up some of the ways that we do election badly. But the biggest thing is the money, because that's the lobbying and Citizens United. That's where I appreciate them, and just that whether I disagree with them or not, that they've both been pretty about where, especially.
Every, yeah. he goes back.
I almost didn't even catch that, and I'm like, oh, wait a second.
I tell you what, I was getting some text messages from the Yang campaign, and they thought I was different family members. And I would respond back like, hey, where do you think Yang, blah, blah, blah. And in the list I say, well, Trump 20, trying to be a jerk. And they always had super polite, nice responses to the point. Then we had like an actual conversation. So I'm just giving you a hard time, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about this? And I always went back to abortion. So where are you really on this? Because I just can't vote for you. And at least in their campaign, I haven't talked to anybody else. They were extremely polite. The whoever the volunteer that was doing the text, I thought that impressed me enough that not to vote for him, but to say like, "Oh, that's cool." They weren't being, combative.
I think Yang is really has a point about where loss of certain jobs is.
Yeah.
If
I'd like to see him advocate for getting rid of tractors, combines, sector.
Hey,
not mine.
I mean, really, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of where I feel like
we've missed
on
the whole
that.
global warming thing. And I don't even. I mean, just 2 seconds. Where are you at?
I've taken classes about how the whole carbon issue. You can argue about whether that's the cause of climate change, but the carbon is really it's hard to argue with the fact that we are producing carbon and we carbon to.
So, should the Democrats had stood and clapped when Trump said he's going to plant 16 billion trees
Sure.
in the
Is that what
State
you're
of the
talking
Union
about?
speech when they all sat there like, "Oh, you're an
State
idiot.
of
We
the
don't
Union
like."
speech is
That's a whole other topic.
completely most useless in politics. But anyway,
But he does have a plan to plant. What is it? 1 million trees? Or I don't remember. A
yeah,
whole bunch. A whole
which
bunch.
is great. Trees are great, but without reducing emissions, trees aren't going to be able to. Trees are great, but our biggest carbon.
Wait, what now? Say it again.
Our biggest carbon sink in the ground.
Carbon sink. You mean?
They can
I'm
take-
layman here.
They take the carbon that we produce. They
like a
can,
sponge.
yeah, they can.
to
absorb
convert it back to oxygen.
Yeah. pretty
I'm sorry. I
much.
was thinking producing carbon. I was
at
like, wait a
least
minute. How is
deal
it
with it.
producing? Okay,
No,
gotcha.
it's
Okay.
not producing.
I just reversed it in my
Sinking
head.
is in taking it in.
Yeah. I'm slow.
And I guess that would be this issue is where biggest issue. It's not in any company individual probably that.
I mean, if you're an energy producing company, especially in the nuclear field, nuclear is a very, very clean, very efficient option that we have. Really, for some of the flaws that it had in say 70s, things like that, it's relatively safe. There's a lot of other technologies out there. Salt reactors powered by thorium. There's enough thorium to power the world for years, decades. I don't know how the number is. It's big, but expanding some research in that area. But yeah, I mean, deregulating things like nuclear power plants is that cuts down a lot of things like coal-fired power plants that aren't great for emissions. I guess there's a lot of other things in that area, and also like market demand. People want that type of technology that's green. I think it's a great opportunity to let people build it and let people buy it.
There's
I'm
so
not
much
like
to learn
pro-pollution
there.
for sure,
But- Well, first of all, I want
But
to
I
say
do believe in global warming because it says in Revelation that the world's gonna be destroyed by fire. It's gonna get really hot.
At some point, it's gonna. Yeah.
I differ from the Democratic Party as a whole in that I strongly believe power because the rare earth metals create wind and solar.
Yeah.
Not abundant.
I love the idea of the wind power, but the whole time I'm like, how much energy does it take to create one of those things? And then
And
now you have all those going to
In
landfills.
addition to that, both of those are variable power sources, kind of regulate. But even in a country like the States, still generally have daylight and wind at the same time. So even if you're sharing power throughout the grid, right now, a lot of even states like Iowa, where a lot of our power is wind, we buy power from other parts of the grid and sell power. It's constant exchange. That comes from more stable, clean, because it stabilizes our grid. Wind and
not cost effective. Mid-American would never build those wind farms if they weren't heavily subsidized by taxpayer money. Plain and simple. They're just it's a great make jobs kind of program, and it looks real nice. Had a former governor that really pushed for that as his legacy, but we're already seeing. People have probably seen all those stories, and just it's probably not a great viable long-term magic
great concept. I think
Yeah.
it has a lot of limitations.
At least we're thinking now.
Yeah.
I don't think we were thinking about it really 20 years ago. I don't know. What issues have we neglected? Maybe we could talk all night. I've really enjoyed it. If you want to do it again, maybe someday when we can do it. Sometime we can do it again. Closer to the election when everybody's really mad. And I don't know. Yeah. Final shot for everybody.
For me, I think a couple of the biggest issues, just in general, the freedom and the way that people are having their ability to make decisions for themselves trampled by both the Republicans and Democrats over the years. Probably what's really for being a libertarian, as well as like just the issue of war, right? You know, this is getting ridiculous. We were given reasons for why we're in the Middle East, and I started seeing while I was over there, they didn't add up. I read a book called Fool's Errand by Scott Horton about the war in Afghanistan. And just like opened my eyes up to a lot of things that I saw over there. And I just really believe we're not over there for the right reason. A lot of people are getting killed for no reason. A lot of service members are coming back with PTSD and just all kinds of things, physical problems, mental problems, veteran suicide. You know, all this is tied to this kind of just long run war. We've got to get over that. We've got to get over this idea, you know, Christians, friends of people, that we kind of part of this addiction, this cultural addiction to fighting. And I just don't see any of the major candidates. Tulsi was maybe the one candidate, Bernie at times speaking up about anti-war, but neither major party is really willing to take any meaningful steps in that direction. And policy of being involved in foreign places where, to be honest, our freedom is not. Somebody die in Kenya. Nothing in Kenya. I just don't buy that lie.
Our military spend higher than the. Unless that's changed last bit, but
That was 12.
13 countries.
Okay.
At least, yeah.
yeah, and
We could not. I mean, we could not put money into that for like the next 15 years, and we'd still be a nation in the.
Okay, Nate, what's your parting shot?
Am I giving like a plug for libertarianism?
You whatever you want
Is that what
to.
I'm doing?
I put no
Um,
restrictions on you, my
Favorite
libertarian
soda,
friend.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, Owen probably outlined a lot of the policies topics a little bit better than I would, but I think if I were to encourage anybody, my reason for looking into libertarianism and liking it as I do is just the personal responsibility aspect, and if I look at that through my Christian lens, what am I doing to make the world a better place? What am I doing to help homelessness? What am I doing to help with home and trafficking? And that has like really dovetailed really well with my Christian faith. And so I feel like I've done more to propel those. I've done more. I'm a better Christian, I guess I should. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm a better Christian. I feel like, according to the Bible and according to the words of Jesus, as a libertarian, because I'm looking at myself first. I feel like that's what.
Gotcha. All right, Alberto.
Final thoughts?
Yes.
Well, I'm probably the least qualified to talk about politics here. I'm more on the simple, like more like Dan says, like you're pro-life, okay, you're my candidate. So, I mean, I've learned a lot. It's good. That's mostly why I came here, to hear what you guys had to say and learn all those things. And so, but I don't know. In the end, I just try to remind myself that try not to put all my hope into a specific candidate or the government. In the end, my hope should be in Jesus. And
What?
I guess my big
See my MAGA hat. Number one passion, Jesus. Number one job, disciple making. Whatever that. We don't do it well enough. I'm more concerned about that than I am politics, because, like I said, I've kind of backed off about 8 years ago. Trump is wildly entertaining just because he makes all the right people mad, in my perspective. I love to watch people respond in anger to him. The politicians, not normal people, because then that's kind of sad. But he does represent me when it comes to abortion and some of the other major. So it'll be interesting these next few months to see what happens. To see how the election goes. Everybody's predicting wild turnouts, and we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. Thanks everybody for being a part of this conversation. I hope it was informative for those listening or watching. And who knows? Maybe we'll do it again, because it was thoroughly enjoyable. I'm not mad at anybody. So yeah, there we go.